It was a cold November evening in Chicago, and the emergency room at Mercy General Hospital was buzzing with the usual chaos. Nurses hustled through the corridors, doctors barked orders, and the smell of antiseptic lingered in the air. Amidst the controlled chaos, a young woman was wheeled into the ER on a stretcher. She appeared disoriented, with shallow breathing and visible bruises on her arms. The paramedics explained that she had been found wandering near Lake Shore Drive, alone and frightened. No identification, no phone, no memory of who she was. Samantha Collins, a senior nurse with 15 years of experience, approached the stretcher with a practiced calm. She had seen countless patients in distress, but there was something unusual about this young woman. Her eyes, wide and alert despite the fear, held a strange mix of panic and confusion. Samantha gently checked her vital signs while the paramedics explained that the woman had been walking for hours and seemed unable to recall even her own name. Something about the tone of her voice and the subtle tremor in her hands set Samantha on edge. As Samantha helped transfer the woman onto a hospital bed, she noticed a small, faded tattoo on her wrist. It was partially obscured by bruising, but the design, a tiny butterfly intertwined with initials, was oddly familiar. She leaned closer, adjusting the fluorescent hospital light to get a better look. Her heart skipped a beat. 10 years ago, she had seen a missing persons report on a similar tattoo. A little girl, abducted from her own home in the suburbs, had vanished without a trace. The case had gone cold, haunting the city and every officer involved for years. Samantha's mind raced. Could it really be the same person? She knew she had to act fast. Gently, she touched the woman's arm and spoke softly, "Do you remember your name?" The woman shook her head, tears pooling in her eyes. Samantha didn't push further. Instead, she made a call to the hospital administrator and quietly informed the on-duty detective liaison about the potential lead. Every second counted. If this truly was the missing girl, now a young woman in her early 20s, she had been living a nightmare that no one could imagine. While the medical team worked to stabilize the woman's condition, Samantha carefully documented the tattoo and cross-referenced the details with old police files. She called in Detective Mark Harris, a seasoned investigator who had worked on the original abduction case. When he arrived, Samantha showed him the tattoo, describing its unique design and placement. Mark's eyes widened. "That's her," he whispered, disbelief etched on his face. "I can't believe it." After 10 years, the gravity of the situation hit them both. This woman had endured an entire decade of captivity, isolated and unknown, until a nurse's keen eye noticed the one detail that tied her back to the world she had lost. The young woman's story unfolded slowly. Through gentle questioning and reassurance, she revealed fragments of her past. Her name was Emily Parker. At 10 years old, she had been kidnapped by a man who had become a shadow over her life. He had kept her confined in a remote cabin in the outskirts of Illinois, moving constantly, teaching her to stay silent, to forget. For 10 years, Emily had survived on fear and instinct, forming a world in which escape seemed impossible. The man had convinced her that no one would ever come looking for her, that she was alone in the world. And yet, here she was, found by strangers who cared. Detective Harris took meticulous notes as Emily described the cabin, the roads they had traveled, and the routines she had been forced to follow. Every detail mattered. Samantha stayed by her side, offering quiet comfort, holding her hand when memories became too vivid, too painful. Emily's gaze occasionally drifted to the hospital ceiling, as though she were searching for a world she had lost. It was a strange mix of relief and terror. The first moments of freedom were not easy. Samantha understood that, after years of captivity, the mind could not simply adjust in a single day. As the investigation deepened, evidence began to surface. Detective Harris coordinated with local law enforcement, tracing Emily's movements over the years. They discovered that her kidnapper had been meticulous in avoiding detection, but his pattern was not flawless. Using Emily's recollections, they pieced together a trail of rental properties, abandoned cabins, and isolated roads. Each location added clarity to the puzzle, each revelation bringing hope and closure to a case that had haunted the community for a decade. Emily's courage, combined with Samantha's sharp observation, had reopened a file thought permanently closed. Meanwhile, the hospital became a sanctuary for Emily. Nurses brought her warm blankets and gentle meals, while doctors ensured her physical wounds were treated. Samantha remained a constant presence, recognizing that recovery required more than medicine, it required empathy and understanding. She encouraged Emily to speak, to share her memories at her own pace, never pushing too hard. Slowly, Emily began to recount small moments of defiance and hope she had clung to, tiny acts that had kept her spirit alive during years of darkness. Public attention soon followed. News outlets reported the miraculous discovery of Emily Parker, the girl missing for 10 years, now found alive. Samantha's observation of a single tattoo had unlocked a decade-long mystery, bringing joy and relief to a family that had grieved relentlessly. Emily's parents, who had never stopped hoping, rushed to the hospital as soon as they received the call. Their reunion was emotional and raw, tears flowing freely as they embraced a daughter they had thought lost forever. For the first time in a decade, Emily felt the warmth and security of her family, a sensation she had almost forgotten. Law enforcement acted quickly to apprehend the kidnapper. Using the evidence provided by Emily, they tracked him down to a remote storage property he had used intermittently. The arrest was swift, but the impact of his crimes lingered. Emily had endured unimaginable trauma, yet she showed remarkable resilience. Psychologists and trauma counselors were brought in to support her, guiding her through the early stages of reintegration into society. Samantha often stayed during these sessions, not as a medical professional, but as a compassionate observer who had helped bridge the gap between captivity and freedom. Months passed, and Emily began to rebuild her life. She returned to school, took up art classes, and slowly rediscovered the joy of social interaction. The trauma of her past was never far away, but with therapy, support, and the unwavering presence of her family, she started to reclaim her identity. Samantha continued to visit occasionally, checking in and offering guidance. Their bond had become unbreakable, a testament to the power of vigilance, empathy, and courage. One small tattoo had changed everything, proving that even the tiniest detail could alter the course of history. The story of Emily Parker became more than a news headline, it became a symbol of hope. Communities across Illinois and beyond were reminded of the importance of attentiveness and the human capacity to persevere. Nurses, teachers, and everyday citizens realized that their actions, however small, could have monumental consequences. Emily's journey from abduction to recovery inspired legislation on missing children and reinforced the value of Amber Alerts, community vigilance, and the importance of trained, observant individuals in every neighborhood. Through it all, Samantha remained humble. She never sought recognition for her role in discovering Emily. To her, it was simply part of her duty, to care, to notice, to act when necessary. Yet, the impact of her observation resonated far beyond the hospital walls. Emily's story, fueled by a single tattoo, a nurse's insight, and a community's dedication, reminded everyone that even in the darkest circumstances, hope could shine through. The world, at its core, was filled with those who noticed, who acted, and who refused to let fear dictate the outcome. Years later, Emily stood on a Chicago pier, looking out at Lake Michigan. The water reflected the sunlight like shards of glass, sparkling and endless. She felt a sense of freedom that had once seemed impossible. Samantha joined her, quietly standing by her side. "You've come a long way," she said softly. Emily nodded, a smile breaking through the shadows of memory. "I couldn't have done it without you noticing me," she replied. In that moment, they both understood the profound truth. One vigilant eye, one compassionate heart, could alter the course of a lifetime. Emily's life continued, filled with new experiences, friendships, and opportunities she had once thought impossible. The trauma remained a part of her, a reminder of her resilience and strength. But every time she looked at the small butterfly tattoo on her wrist, she remembered the moment a nurse saw her, the moment hope returned, and the moment she reclaimed her life. Chicago would forever remember the miraculous case of Emily Parker, not just for the crime that ended, but for the courage, vigilance, and human compassion that brought her home.